So often we read books or watch videos or read a blog to learn how to persuade other people, how to close others, negotiate, read others. It's always about how can I do something to other people, right? So we study other people so much. But I will tell you the most important subject you and I can study, the most important subject you and I can study is the person we're going to live with for the rest of our lives more than any other person in the world is ourselves. And what I mean by ourselves is how do you trend? Not on social media. How do your decisions in life trend? Do you study how you trend? And we're going to talk about that today because, some of my favorite quotes here, I'll tell you what Aristotle said. He said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Aristotle, he mentored Alexander the Great, right? Rumi, and you, when will you begin that long journey into yourself? Ralph Ellison, when I discover who I am, I will be free, right? So instead of trying to study everybody else and get them to do what you want for you, why don't you study yourself for you to make better choices so life will be simpler? So let's study some of these trends here. Okay. Patrick, what do you mean? How do you trend? Okay, so let's look at this. Pick the last 3 crises that happened in your life. Okay, whatever those crises may be. Loss of a loved one, a divorce, a bankruptcy, a health issue, a setback, something happened, got fired, whatever those 3 things are, okay? Write them down on whatever they are. Then study how you reacted to each one of them. What was your reaction to each one of them, okay? Is your reaction bad-mouthing? It's their fault. It's his fault. It's the company's fault. It's because it's not my fault. I couldn't do anything. This is how I react. If you study these trends, you will notice there are certain clues about you, okay? Then you ask yourself the question, do I like how I trend? Do I like how I respond to the crisis? Do I like the results of the way I respond to crisis? If the answer is yes, you keep doing it. But if the answer is every time crisis happens, the way you respond to it is something that does not bring fulfillment in your life, it's constant misery and setback, then you got to make a shift to that. Here's another one. I had a friend of mine that would talk about relationships. It's always this girl's fault. No. That one didn't work out because she's this. This one didn't work out because she's that. That one didn't work out because she's this. Eventually, we sat down and I said, listen, let me ask you a question. You've been telling me this about the last 5 girls you dated. You really want to tell me it's all these girls' problems? So if that's the case, what do we need to shift for us not to have that experience? That goes back to trend. Health goes in this. The types of people that you argue with. The types of people you don't like. The types of people you don't get along with. Make a list of those 3 people you don't get along with and ask yourself, what's the trend? Is it because they push you too much? Do they remind you of your father? Do they remind you of your mother? Do they remind you of somebody? Do they remind you of your ex? Is that the trend with them? They're not your ex. So why are you responding to that? So either you're going to continue having those types of relationship with these types of people, or if you want to be able to have better relationship with these folks, you need to make a shift on how you respond to these folks. So now, this exercise with trending, it is very fascinating when you study you. Let me tell you what happened with me. Many years ago, one of the most important events that took place in my life was in August of '03. I got a hold of these questions that a friend gave me. It was 83 questions. I got away and I went to the beach, El Matador. Over the years I've collected a lot of these questions, but I got a hold of these questions. I went to El Matador, and it's somewhere in Malibu, I think. And I would go there on Sundays. I grabbed these questions, 6, 7, 8 hours. And every question was about events that happened in my life that affected the way I am today, right? My personality, the way I think today. By the time I was done going through these questions, I was so emotional, it was intense. I was crying, I was furious with myself, I was angry, I was so disappointed with myself, but I was happy with myself. I started accepting myself. Then I started realizing the problem is here, and the good news is you can fix it. That's the great news above all. This can be fixed. There are solutions for this if I want to, and I did. Life started changing. So I decided years later, just a few months ago, to make those questions public on my website, patrickbaydavid.com, and it's called the Ultimate Self-Discovery Questionnaire. Let me just put it to you this way. Thousands of people have already taken it around the world, and we've gotten thousands of emails. If you've sent us email and we haven't gone back to you, it's because we've been bombarded with emails and we haven't had a chance to get back to everybody. But here's some of the ones I want to read to you on what happened with some of these folks who took these questionnaires and how they responded to it. Here's the first one. This is from Uruguay. I will not mention the name. I took your extensive questionnaire and it really made me answer some questions I wouldn't have answered before. It really made me think and dig deep into some deep-rooted issues I have tried to bury. How many of us have tried to bury deep-rooted issues that cause limiting beliefs in our lives that's preventing us to live a fulfilled life, right? Here's another one. I'll save the best for last. Here's one from Portugal. I do believe this type of email comes often to this inbox, but thank you for the extreme eye-opener. That was a question. I find you via Facebook and your website by accident, and I feel like a lucky bastard. In my mind, I didn't think it was possible to get emotional and cry when answering these questions, but in fact, it happened. So many different emotions in just a few questions. I want to hide the answers somewhere only I can have access to, but I don't want to destroy them because I feel I might need to read them again in the future to remind me of these feelings and what answering them did to me. But I don't want anyone else to see them or I feel they would know too much about me. Is that not interesting to study you? Is that not interesting to study you? Well, good for you for sending this email to us. You know who you are. And this last one is from, I'll read, this is from India. And it says, about an hour ago, a colleague of mine placed a link on my Facebook channel to our company sales tips, what's up group. And then after scrolling to your Facebook down and intrigued by your video post, I discovered the questionnaire button. I subscribed and then everything was okay. After switching my phone to airplane mode, she followed all the directions in the video. After switching my phone to airplane mode, setting up my digital box to the song I suggested, which is Symphony Number 4 in A major, and I found the relaxing seat of my home and started with a lot of anticipation. All set to go, I started reading the first set of questions. Instantly, my breath stoked little by little. By the time I had completed section 1 and reading the reflection, I was crying like a baby. To give some inside info, I split up last December with my partner. 1 month after that, I found out my father's lifeless body, arranged his funeral, and haven't shed a tear during the entire process. 15 sessions of therapy did not give me where these questions got me. And I'm only talking about first 2 sections right now. I truly believe the answers to these questionnaire does tell you a lot about who you are. So thank you for that. And now I've calmed down and I've wiped the mascara off my cheeks. I will try to actually take a pen and write down the answers to the questions that I've been avoiding for years and years. You see, first of all, I applaud all of you that have gone through these questionnaires and thousands of you that have sent it to us. Again, we haven't gone through all of them, but we will. We will read through all of them because it's important that you want to share your experience with us. If you watching this video, if you watch the entire video by this time, if you truly want to figure out your capacity, your abilities, the clarity for you to have in life and what you're able to do with your calling, you got to take a step back and study you. You got to take a step back and study your trends. And many times in your life, when something happens in your life, this is how you talk to yourself. When something happens, you say, normally you typically respond to it this way, but let me tell you something. After doing the questionnaire, figuring out who you are and what your trends are, I would suggest you start responding to it this way. Don't say anything, just relax. I totally understand you feel that way. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I will work on it. Or whatever it may be. That's awareness, and it changes all your relationships in your life. So my suggestion to you while you're watching this, if you haven't taken the Ultimate Self-Discovery Questionnaire, go to patrickbaydavid.com. The link's going to be somewhere on here, maybe on the bottom description. Go to it. Get the questionnaire, print it out, go to a quiet place, follow the directions to the T, go through the questionnaire, then send us an email, let us know how that experience was for you. But I could tell you, if you study your trends, life can change for you just like it did for me. Thanks for watching.